We've made a few modifications, temporary, but hopefully they'll work, on the greenhouse. Anyways, we had some greenhouse plastic that was seriously deteriorated, so we had gotten some older plexiglass, but it was pretty brittle. We were trying to put it on yesterday, and it proved to be much of a frustration. So we did part of it, and then in the meantime, we put some of the old plastic on top, you can see there, just to make it work in the meantime. And then the bottom part here is the plexiglass again. Anyway, so I'm moving the rest of my plants into the greenhouse. Cats were in here over the winter. They got evicted yesterday. They are, I don't know, tolerating the change. But anyways, so this is what I've got here so far. I've got some cucumbers and some cannas started in those buckets. Those buckets have drain holes in the bottom. Coleus and a begonia that's very slow and coming along. Lots of peppers and lots of petunias. Onions are just coming up. We will pot them into the garden in the next 2 weeks. And some more onions and squash and that kind of thing. So prior to the greenhouse being set up, we had this makeshift setup that I made for my tomatoes, because I have hundreds of tomato plants that needed to be out of the house. So we made a temporary setup here with bales and poly. And so this is what I've got growing for tomato plants. My greenhouse needs to be quite a bit bigger, but for now, this will work. A few more weeks, a couple more weeks, I guess these tomatoes will be moved out. And you can see we had a heavy frost last night, and you can see some of these little guys must have been a little colder, and they're a little unhappy. So we'll see how they look later on in the day. This is my permanent leek bed that has been here. Well, this is, I would believe, is this 3rd year I've had leeks in here. And they actually overwinter just beautifully. I just leave them in here, and because they are biennial, then they will go to seed this year. But I just pop off the seed pod. As you can see, actually, there's one right here. This one right here is actually, that is going to be a flower. So I'll just pop it off so it won't put energy into the flower and put energy into the stalk. The rhubarb bed is here, and it's coming along really well. It would be farther along, but unfortunately I had my chickens roaming the yard, and would you believe it, that they actually were pecking at the fresh growth that was coming up. So it's a little farther behind than it might normally be, but otherwise it's looking fine. Strawberry beds. I've got one box here that I started last year. So it looks like some of the plants maybe died over the winter. And then this long bed right here is all strawberries. Some of them looks like they haven't overwintered, so I'll probably pot up some more into there. This strawberry patch here is looking incredible. And as you can see, the quack grass is happy to move in. There's a few extra dandelions that we'll remove. Here's another bed of strawberries. Try to move my shadow so you can see it. It's hard to see the strawberries for the quack grass. This bed needs some serious attention, and it will get it probably, hopefully, before the quack grass thinks that it lives here. I'm trying a multiple of different varieties of gardening types. Last year was the first year I set up this pallet garden. This is the year that I'm anticipating will be actually successful. Last year I had a lot of slug problems in the garden, so this year hopefully we have managed to take the control of that. So a couple days ago I planted some radish and spinach and lettuce, a few different varieties of each in here. So we will see how they come along. It looks really neat and organized anyways. And then here I've got my gooseberries. This is the first year that I actually pruned them very aggressively. Gooseberries tend to just take over if you let them. And so this year I pruned them very aggressively so that they would be more upright growth and easier to harvest, because anybody who's grown gooseberries knows that the plants are very thorny and they do not play well with others. But there are lots of blossoms on here. As you can see, they're just loaded with bloom. So hopefully, with it being like pruned like this, we will actually be able to harvest them. It's actually incredible. So I've got three gooseberry bushes like this, and I've got some red currants here that are also just incredibly loaded with buds. So should be a good year of fruit as far as that goes. And this little plant here, I believe, is a josta berry, which I've yet to harvest anything from, but we'll see. Maybe this year. And here is the rest, the larger bed of strawberries. You can see how the straw goes all the way to the end there. So I've got 3 different varieties of types of strawberries. I've got the day neutral in this end, and I wouldn't say that they make me very happy yet, but strawberries tend to be very heavy feeders, so I find if I don't fertilize them really well throughout the growing season that they don't produce that great. But here's this one, I believe, is an everbearing, and there are some flowers, if you can see them there. And I'm working on just keeping my strawberry patch as a permanent patch and just always putting the new runners back into the middle of the patch, and then weeding out the ones that are getting old, the mother plants. So there are flowers here, so hopefully this year they will do really well. I have been getting strawberries every year, but never in abundance. So, but there's lots of, you see the strawberry, the flowers. There's one there, another one here. So that's just a snippet of the garden setup. I've got some potatoes planted there. That side of the garden, we're going with a permanent mulch, no-till. That's the plan. And the remainder of the garden is permanent beds. So got a long permanent bed here. This is the sand and the pathways all got finished last summer. There's a long permanent bed there that needs to be weeded and planted. And some more here. Another one here. And most of these, basically all these beds have yet to be planted. So that's a project for this weekend, and within the next 2 weeks, a lot of them are going to be tomatoes and peppers. And that long bed there that you can see with the stake just before the cold frame, that's got mostly carrots in. So that's a snippet of the garden. Grapes are there, and some more here. And anybody who's been gardening for any number of years knows that every gardening season is unique, and what works this year may not work next year, or vice versa. And the challenge in Manitoba anyways is to remember what didn't work last year and to try something new this year. So that's how our garden looks right now. We'll see how it turns out.